Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Boost Supply Chain Resilience with Graph Database and Analytics. My name is Meryl Lee, and I'm part of the webinar team here at Neo4j, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Michael Moore, Vice President of Partner Solutions and Technology at Neo4j, and our guests, Johnny Lin, CEO at Gemini Data, and Joe Fijic, Global Executive Vice President at Ennoconn. We're super excited you could be with us today. So a quick note regarding questions before we get started. We invite you to submit any questions you have throughout the session using the questions tab located at the top of your screen. We'll answer as many questions as possible at the end of today's presentation. And if we don't get to them all, someone on the Neo4j team will reach out to you directly, or you can send an email to webinar@neo4j.com and we'll get you pointed in the right direction. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Michael.
Thanks, Marilee. Yeah, my name is Michael Moore. I lead our partner enablement function at Neo4j, and I also run a team of solution architects that help partners and customers design graph-based applications that integrate with enterprise ecosystems. And I'm super pleased to be joined today by Johnny Lin, who is the co-founder and CEO of Gemini Data, one of our leading partners globally. And they've got some really great solutions in the area of rapid application development and visualization on top of Neo4j, which is the industry's leading graph database platform. And we'll also be hearing from Joe Fijic, who is the global EVP and COO of Ennoconn Corporation, a leading IPC for design and manufacturing services. And he will be presenting some specific detail around a really interesting supply chain use case that Gemini Data built a solution on top of. So take it away, Johnny.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Hello, everyone. This is Johnny, co-founder, CEO of Gemini Data, and thank you for having us. Today, I'm joined by Joe, our honored customer, to share with you how they are using our platform together with Neo4j to boost their supply chain resilience. With that said, I would like to begin by giving you a very quick introduction of who we are and what we do at Gemini Data. So we've been around a couple years and also being in the graph data community for quite some time. And we've partnered with Neo4j and offer this so-called no-code graph data platform with the hope to help enterprises drive and accelerate their adoption of graph technology. So that's essentially what we do. But you may be wondering why we are building this. I think it would make sense to take a look at some of these the challenges or problems that we have seen in the market out there. So first of all, we all know Neo4j is great, the world's leading graph database. But for any organization who wants to adopt and build a graph-based application, there are actually a number of hurdles that you have to go through. And if you look to the left-hand side of this diagram, the number one thing you will need to figure out first is connecting to your data source. And oftentimes this is not an easy task given the complexity of where the data source is, and also the data format could be structured or unstructured, and the other challenge is getting data into a graph database like Neo4j means you will most likely need to learn a new query language, which is Cypher. So that if you're not a technical person, that is something that you will probably rely on your IT or engineering team to do. So not as easily accessible, and beyond getting connected to the right data source, mapping that data in a way that could be understood by graph. Okay, that's another challenge. And on top of that, having a user-friendly front end where users or business users can access and interact with that data, that would be another like a strong requirement for any organization that's looking to adopt graph. And beyond all this, as in a large enterprise organization, you would always look into things like role-based access control, privilege management, security administration, all that. So if you think about it from an enterprise class point of view, there's actually quite a number of areas that you need to tackle. So if you do not right now have that luxury of engineering resource or that experience of using a graph technology like Neo4j, we have the answer for you. So at Gemini Data, we have built this one single platform that facilitates basically almost everything you need to get your graph application project up and running in, just, if not in days, this could be done, fairly quickly in a few weeks. So and let me drill down to some of the key things that we have built, in our product. So with Gemini Data's no-code platform, I think enterprise adoption of graph technology cannot be easier than before. So in our platform, we come with pre-built connectors so that you can easily point and click to your application or to your data source, whereby you can connect those data to a underlying Neo4j database. And then that just requires you to just learn how to use our front end, right? There's no coding, there's no query languages required, and coupled together with our wizard-driven importing and modeling, this allows you to map or model your data in a way that works with your business or work with your analytic requirements. So fairly simple, straightforward. Once data is in the platform, we provide you a number of ways to access that data and to use that data. And one of the things I'm very proud of is, we have introduced this very powerful Google-like search, whereby you could simply start by asking questions with, as simple as, a few keywords, or mix and match some queries, or along with our, AI-powered features, which I will talk about in just a minute. And on top of that, you also have a very powerful, intuitive interface, or which we call Canvas, exploration canvas. This is where you can, point and click and explore and navigate, your data, in the view of a graph, which is fairly straightforward and very simple, especially for those of you who needs to, analyze their data or investigate, for certain business purposes. It's all right there for you. There's also a couple other personalization that you can take advantage. So we often, for those of you who are already, who already know how to use, Neo4j or Bloom, some customer call Gemini Explore as, Bloom on steroid, because we offer, a lot of, additional controls and features that allow you to explore the data in a way that is super easy for business users. As I mentioned, with the market interest a lot in large language models and GPT, we've actually already have that built in since more than a year ago. At Gemini Data, and in our Explore product, today you can simply ask human questions, by just typing a any like a human text input, and with that we will understand the questions. We'll understand the semantic meaning of those questions and turn that into a graph query, which in our backend. And at the end of that is we pull the data out based on your intent, so you don't have to learn any specialized query languages. On top of that, you could also take advantage of our very intuitive dashboard and reporting, so that you don't have to export the data to a third-party tool, which could be cumbersome. So we have got basically everything you need on the same platform. Last but not least, for an enterprise adoption, this platform is built with collaboration in mind. So we understand that in a lot of organizations, you will need to share this knowledge with your other teams or with your peers. So we've built in all the needed security controls so that you can share this data, in a very secure way, in a way that you need it. So that's a quick intro. And with that, I would like to pass over to Joe Fijek, the Global EVP and COO of Ennoconn, to share with you how they have built their supply chain digital twin, with our platform. Joe, take it away.
Very good. Yes, thank you, Johnny, and thank you, Marilee and Michael. It's a pleasure to be here today. And we've worked very closely to date with Johnny and his team at Gemini Data. What I'll do today is share a little bit about Ennoconn, and then we'll get into some of the basically use case studies and how Ennoconn is implementing currently Gemini Data in our system and working with Neo4j as well. About Ennoconn a little bit. Ennoconn's been in business since 1999. In 2007, we had a major event where Foxconn Corporation became the majority owner of Ennoconn, and currently two other very well-known shareholders of our company are Google and MediaTek. We partner with many of the world's largest semiconductor or technology companies in the world today, such as Intel, AMD, NVIDIA, Microsoft, etc. Our revenue last year exceeded $4 billion and generally considered the world's #1 IPC provider, and also very strong in what we call the DMS business, or design for manufacturing services. We're very engaged with many tier 1 Fortune 500 companies where we design and manufacture their products in industrial automation, smart gaming and retailing, machine vision, HMI, amongst others. We have global manufacturing, supply chain, and logistics plants around the world today. We'll go to the next slide, please. If you'll see today, we're really using Google Cloud as the essence of our business, but we're building a supply chain of digital twin that's also powered by Gemini Data and Neo4j Aurora DB. We'll go to the next slide, please. And why do we choose Gemini Data and Neo4j Aurora DB? It's really simple. The simplicity requires no code. So no code to write, no specialized IT or graph technology skills required. And for our business needs, we needed something that could work quickly. Cloud native, there's no infrastructure to build or maintain. And really, there's nobody to hire. It's really for everybody. Our team's been able to easily adapt. We didn't have to hire any additional people. Everyone can do it yourself at Ennoconn, so we can focus really on what our strengths are. The next slide. So what we do is basically our supply chain management team at Ennoconn is very engaged in this process, along with our manufacturing and operations team, along with our design team. So it's designed for planning and execution and control and monitoring of all of our supply chain activities, and really focusing on the flow of goods and services for the delivery requirements of our customers and our builds around the world today. Next slide. So we have several very complex customers that we deal with. Here is one example of manufacturing of a lottery vending machine. What's unique about this particular project is it's very complex supply chain management. There's greater than 5,000 parts and assembly. There's greater than 300 plus suppliers that are involved in this particular build, and the lead times vary, and that affects our delivery schedule. In the past, spreadsheet chaos has really been, something that's been challenging to manage. We've had success, but it's much more stronger in utilizing the Gemini Data system, and we'll share some of that with you today. So again, we utilize specifically with our team of supply chain management, our product management team, material control planner, procurement, and also interject with our sales team who's communicating with our customers on a daily basis. So at Ennoconn, here's what we care about. So on time and effective inventory and cost control, right? So we're looking at how do we also sustain production and have stable and scalable revenue. Next slide. So here's some of our use cases. So it's very important. So from a lead time analysis, what's excellent about this is when you look, we're able to look at our parts and materials across customers' order, orders, delivery dates, and products. So we can really look at how many item quantities we have, what falls into greater than 38 weeks, what falls into the 39 to 52 week category, or greater than 53 weeks, gives us our total representation. And here's two examples of some of our builds and what categories they fall into and what percentage range that is for these particular projects. So how we classify is a critical indicator. So we can look at everything that's greater than 52-week lead time, and then we break that down to less than 500 days, which are the short lead time components, which are our high efficiency suppliers and our short duration projects. We break it down in the in-between category, which is for medium lead time components, and what is average efficiency supplier or average duration projects. And then the ones that are most critical are greater than 500 days or long lead time components, those low efficiency suppliers, and long duration projects. And we'll show how that works as we move forward here. So we're able to really now take and put it into a graph visualization. So we take these lead time classifications and we turn the spreadsheet into the graph visualization. So it's much more simple to be able to identify each category, the less than 26 weeks, 27 to 36 weeks, 37 to 52, and then again, those targeted where we have the greatest concerns at greater than 53 weeks lead times. So what we're able to do then is focus on those suppliers that are at risk. So low efficiency equals high risk. So in the graph database procedures, we're able to really quickly identify, in this case, you'll see the low efficiency supplier, which puts it at a high risk category of anything that's greater than 53 weeks lead time. So what we do then is we drill down to those low efficiency suppliers. So you can see here, we can quickly review those suppliers that are associated with the longer lead times and really then start to manage how does that risk affect our manufacturing process and begin to build that into our supply management team conversations with suppliers and with our customers to make sure that we're meeting the delivery dates of our customers. And again, you can see the beauty of this is it really is quick to identify who are those suppliers that are associated with the high risk makers. So then what we do is we drill down to the long duration projects. And at Ennoconn, typically our customer projects, by the way, we have typically 3 to 5 year contracts or sometimes longer, but we're also able to quickly review those projects based on the specific lead times that are associated based on their delivery dates. And we can look at the long duration projects and identify again, what are the low, medium, and high risk suppliers, and a special emphasis on those long duration projects with the long lead times. We can categorize them, identify where there are concerns, and it's such a simple way to literally do it in the format that you're seeing here today in a graphical nature. So a list of suppliers at high risk due to those long lead times. So again, we get a context of those high risk suppliers. We're able to identify who they are specifically and be able to categorize them based on each project, based on each lead time, so that we can make sure that where there may be at risk, we can be proactive with our conversations, manage that into the build cycle. Our supply management team is able to not only work internally, but work externally with our suppliers and customers to mitigate any risks well in advance of any concerns happening. So then what we do is we export that list of suppliers at risk with long lead times. And that again allows us for rapid decision making and next action. So we're able to export the data again into a simple but very complex graph that allows us to be able to share that data internally, again, have those discussions internally amongst our team, but also, again, it allows us to be much more proactive in communicating with our strategic suppliers, partners, and customers. So again, here's a use case 2 production analysis where we're able to identify some bottlenecks in the supply chain. And here's an example of, in this case, again, you've got the lead times So you have identified the materials with the long lead times that tend to be the bottleneck for the on-time delivery, and it requires more action, and it also associates with the specific manufacturing plant that we're dealing with as well. So from a production analysis perspective, we can analyze across all of our customer orders, all of the delivery dates, and all of the part shortages. Again, our parts shorts classifications with red, yellow, green. So red is any insufficient inventory and materials not meeting the delivery date requirements. Yellow is where we have insufficient inventory, but materials meeting delivery date requirements. And go for green, materials with sufficient inventory. So you'll see again, in analyzing across these delivery dates with finished products and materials, the correlation of supply chain data. So again, we're able to utilize the red, yellow, green status, which allows us to easily look at the graphs that are created and identify where there may be issues, especially in the category of red. So again, our part shortage analysis, here's an example of delivery date for 4/17. Here's at a glance view. You'll be able to see very easily that the entire complexity of our supply chain is no part shortages for delivery dates on 4/17. Everything is green and good to go. Now, when you look at part shortages analysis of delivery date for 5/19, you can easily spot the anomalies. So we are showing here 2 materials with insufficient inventory and no delivery date, 18 materials with insufficient inventory but has a delivery date. Again, we're able to now get proactively ahead of the build date for 5/19, identify where we have insufficient materials, and begin to expedite and have those conversations with our suppliers and with our customers. So again, our part shortage analysis of delivery data 5/19, we're able to also match up our quantity versus the ETA, or the estimated time of arrival for those components. And although these materials have a delivery date, there are only 16 days left to the order delivery date. So there's attention required. So we're immediately communicating with our suppliers in advance. We're also preparing, are there alternative suppliers as a backup? Again, we're coming off of some of the most unprecedented allocation periods that we've ever seen in our industry. And by utilizing this as an example, we're able to proactively in advance get ahead of the challenges that we would have and communicate with those suppliers openly. And again, where necessary, we're able to look at alternative suppliers as the backup, as mentioned. This is really important. But again, when you look at it, broken down the difference between the spreadsheet and the graphical database, there's no comparison. It's just the simplicity of being able to look in a dashboard type of effect makes it much more professional, much more simplicity to be able to get in front of our suppliers and communicate with them proactively. So again, our part shortage analysis of delivery data 5/19, again, we identify those suppliers at risk. What's beautiful about these databases is that you can break down whatever data you would require in whatever type of format you would like to look at. So in this case, example is here's materials with only one supplier. So we have a single point of failure here. We're able to identify that and put whatever resources are necessary to make sure that we are able to procure parts and be able to meet the estimated delivery dates of our customers based on the materials that are required. So again, suppliers at risk across multiple projects. What's interesting is with several of our customers or projects, right, we have common parts. So what's nice about the Gemini data, the Neo4j, is we're able to look at all the suppliers at risk. And here's an example of one that requires immediate attention due to a shortage quantity. Again, we have some common parts across common platforms, and that allows us to proactively look at each of those projects where there's common parts and where there may be a supplier at risk. In this case, only one supplier at risk. So what's next? From an Ennoconn perspective, here's what we've done in rolling out the supply chain for digital twin in phases. So phase one was our initial pilot. So we mapped the relationship between suppliers, our bill of materials, the sales orders, inventory, and more, and providing analysts with the foundation to model the what if scenarios. Phase two, and we're in this process, beginning stages, is the cross-departmental, right? How do we tackle more adjacent use cases across supply chain, scheduling, sources, and finance? And a very critical part of this is we're starting to learn is phase three is the value supply chain supplier. So our goal is to extend more and more beyond the walls of Ennoconn and connect to the entire industry to eliminate insufficiencies throughout the value chain. And we've begun to have those discussions with our strategic suppliers and customers who are very excited what they see in our ability to take the Gemini data, Neo4j, the graphical nature of what we're doing, the simplicity of being able to share these dashboards and proactively get in front of those concerned items. And phase four is, again, our customers, ultimately onboarding our customers for enhanced experiences and creating revenue opportunities and enable cost savings. We mentioned earlier also our sales team is quite involved with this process, so they're able to sit down with our customers in a proactive nature and be able to show them how we're managing our supply chain in such a way now that goes far beyond the complexity of the Excel spreadsheet database, and really utilize the graphical nature, which is really much more powerful, much more dynamic, and being able to share information that is at our fingertips today.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Johnny.
So with that, I guess what I want to say is, don't just listen to me or Joe. I want to show you something in action. So what I have here is a recorded demo of a supply chain use case, and I think the purpose of this is just to give every one of you an idea of how this actually works. So let me just hit the play button and just to walk you through this real quick. So in this particular example, we are showing you, 3 product bills so we're going to look at the bill of material of all these 3 products. And what you can see here is by simply point and click, you can explore all of the relevant data that are associated with these 3 product bills. And what you're looking at here are actually the list of parts and materials used by all these 3 different products in orange. So as a matter of fact, if you're interested in any of the data points right here, you can simply either select some or all of them, and thereby reformat in a way that can be easily understood or be viewed. And because oftentimes if this is your first time looking at a graph, you probably want to look for some easier way to understand. And we do offer you a number of controls where you can decide how however that you want the graph to look like. If there is excessive information on the canvas, what you can also do is to group those data so you can sanitize the graph in a way that can be easily communicated and not to be not to look so noisy with lots of nodes and data. You do have the ability to just right click on any of the selected range and export it as a CSV. On top of that, as I mentioned before, you can also search for any interesting data points by simply ask a human test question. In this particular example, we're looking at parts supplied by a particular supplier, and within just a few seconds, we return the result in a graph, and this is what I meant by human text input and graph data output. And this is especially useful for those of you who needs to deal with very complex supply chain data, and if you don't know, and especially if you don't know what you're looking for, a tool like this can actually enable you to tackle some of the hardest and very complicated supply chain questions. Now, in addition to asking questions, you can also add conditions or filters to the text-based questions. And so this is not just a pure natural language processing, but also the understands, some of the numeric values that, that's inside the questions. So we will select those that matches certain criteria, as your, direct answer. Okay, so with that, hopefully this gives you a good idea of, how this, no-code graph technology, Gemini Explorer works. All right, so I'll return this back to the host. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much, Johnny and Joe. And just as a reminder, Johnny Lin is the co-founder and CEO of Gemini Data, and Joe is the COO of Ennoconn, and we're very pleased to have him as our customer. We're going to now take a quick look at some of the questions that have come in.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Joe. I want to remind the audience, if they'd like to submit a question, they can do so by typing it into the questions tab located at the top of their screen. But as you were presenting, a few questions have been coming in, so we'll go ahead and get started with those. So I'm going through here. Let's see. It says, what considerations had to be made for normalizing data sets as you assembled your digital twin? Is this one for you, Joe, maybe?
Yeah, so, again, as we mentioned, before, Marilee, we had been managing our system, right, through a spreadsheet database type of a program, right? And what we wanted to do in meeting with Johnny and his team was really learn how we could take the very complex process of the cumbersome nature of spreadsheets and put it into a more detailed analysis that we could easily understand, again, especially those areas where there would be long lead times, long project duration, where we may identify concerns. And through the process, we learned the simplicity and the nature of the dashboard of the graphs. And we were able to take that data and much more easily, not only internally address those, but allow us to communicate externally with our suppliers and our customers. Again, coming off of the unprecedented allocation period we had, by being able to utilize these graphs was much more productive to be able to identify and meet our customers' demands where possibly others failed. We really excelled through this process.
So I have a follow-up on that. So as you were talking, this dawned on me. So you had this what did you call it? This spreadsheet chaos that you were trying to manage this all in. And so you knew that if you moved to the graph that you could, kind of get a handle on that. But when you started seeing it in this graph visualization, did you then uncover other things that you weren't even thinking of before and other ways to optimize and to really get more information than you originally thought that you needed to get?
Yeah, so one of the strengths of it, Marilee, that did help, as I showed earlier, we have multiple projects that utilize same or similar components. That in and of itself was really, really helpful to be able to manage not only one project and one customer, but multiple projects and multiple customers that utilize same or similar components. So that was really highly beneficial, and one of the things that we gained out of it. Also, the ability to, I'll say, much more easily identify second source opportunities as well. And again, especially in an allocated period where it becomes more challenging, that becomes a critical strategy. So those were two aspects among others that really allowed us to improve what we're doing from a supply chain management, manufacturing, and operational perspective.
Great, thank you. So here's another one that asks, so who in the org has access to see the visualizations and make use of them?
Yeah, so from our perspective, it was great. I showed earlier, right? Especially from our supply chain management team, they are the ones that are most critical to this process. But it really goes across multiple groups within our organization, such as I mentioned earlier, our product management team, our design and engineering team. Since we are in design for manufacturing services, we do make critical decisions based on our customers' designs as well as throughout the entire build process, and also and including two other areas from an executive management standpoint. We have dashboards that are available that we can review and also participate in this process. And also equally important, and sometimes you don't see the connection between the supply chain and the sales teams, but being able to communicate with our sales and business development organization, who is regularly interfacing with our customers, really allows them to be much more proactive together and team oriented in really addressing those concerns that may be happening, and be much more proactive and professional in how we communicate externally in our organization as well.
Great. And when I think Johnny was touching on this when he was talking about the no code solution that Gemini Data has created, and you talk about the visualizations. Now, is that Bloom? Is it Bloom at the base of that, or at the core of that visualization process?
Yeah, I'll take that. So what we just demonstrated there is all based on Gemini Explorer, the visualization tool we built from scratch. Yeah, but
Okay.
do people do from time to time compare that with Bloom? So we typically describe it as a Bloom on steroids.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, so how quickly can you go from assembling data and doing the analysis to seeing the various what if scenarios?
Okay. So with assuming that you're using Gemini Explorer to do the job, as mentioned, that you basically could take advantage of our pre-built connectors to connect and stitch all these different data sources together. So I think from a preparation point of view, that could be very efficient and very quickly. And I would say typically getting as long as the data is ready to be connected, getting to access to the data and seeing that on our front end interface, I would say that would be like just a few hours, if not more, to get it working.
Yeah, and I want to compliment that, Johnny. So, exactly what you just said has been what has been the user case in our perspective, right? As you know, right, we had a lot of data, everything was available, and again, in the spreadsheet format, and we do use SAP for our enterprise system. Being able to load that data literally same day, we started being able to see some of the data come before our eyes, and within a matter of the first couple of days, we were quite efficient. But Johnny and his team were accessible and available. The training has been wonderful, and exactly what he just said. Literally within hours, we could start to see it materialize in front of our eyes.
Oh, that's awesome. I'd love to hear that. So here's one is, we get this question a lot because graph is a newer technology, right? So how hard is it to learn graph?
Yeah, so I could say from our perspective, while this is newer in the supply chain process, right? We've all throughout our life we've seen a lot of charts and graphs, right? So it wasn't new to our team in terms of charts and graphs, but utilizing it in the nature we are certainly is new. But we found again, while there's a lot of complexities to this process and a lot of complexities to the data, if you see some of the slides that I shared really showed the simplicity of it. So while it's complex, it was simple for us to be able to read the data, understand the data, and begin to manipulate the data so that it was user friendly. And that's really one of the keys that I would say to Johnny and his team and the Neo4j is really the simplicity of it was really hugely beneficial to us being able to proceed forward. But the complexity of the data is still there.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate you spending time with us. So thank you so much. And for those in the audience, thank you for coming by as well. And I want to wish you all a great day. So thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.